Hi there. I am Shreyoshi and I am a PhD student in the Department of Biochemistry at Memorial University. And today I will be talking about heartburn and Gaviscon. We'll be seeing how these things work together and how Gaviscon helps in preventing heartburn. So, for the first session of this talk, what we'll be doing is we'll be learning about what heartburn is and also how Gaviscon works to prevent it. And then the second part of this talk is going to be where you will be performing the experiment on your own using Gaviscon to see the mechanism behind how Gaviscon actually functions. So, with that, let us look at the first part of the talk where we learn how Gaviscon works and what heartburn is. So, here I have a presentation which explains how Gaviscon works to prevent heartburn. So, what is heartburn? So, you know that your stomach is a big, it's a big bag. It contains hydrochloric acid and it which has three main functions. The first is to help kill all the bacteria that come in, maybe with our food, and then the second is to break down our food, and then the third is to create the right conditions in the stomach for a stomach enzyme called as pepsin to work. So what happens is over here, this is how the normal stomach looks like. Okay, so you have this sphincter, which is basically prevents all the acid from going up into the food pipe or the esophagus. So this is called the lower esophageal sphincter. So that normally remains closed. But then with GERD, which is a disorder, what happens is this lower esophageal sphincter, it opens up. And as a result of it, there is backflow of acid and stomach contents into the esophagus, as a result of which we have heartburn. Now, there are various causes of heartburn. First is where, when you have very fatty foods, unhealthy food, that can lead to heartburn. And then basically, talking about, eating at, unhealthy, unplanned times of the day can also cause heartburn. Basically, having an unhealthy lifestyle can lead to heartburn. So now how Gaviscon functions. Now Gaviscon actually contains these these chemicals, out of which the primary focus is going to be on sodium alginate. Now sodium alginate, it's actually a polymer that can be extracted from a type of seaweed, a brown seaweed, and kelps. So it is actually one of the structural polymers that help to build the cell wall of these plants. So it has some unusual properties and a wide variety of uses that we will find in this experiment that we are going to do as a part of the second session of this talk. So what happens is, in the presence of calcium carbonate, it reacts with the acid in the stomach to form a gel. Okay, so Gaviscon also contains calcium carbonate, and by reacting with it, it basically forms a gel. Then what happens is, sodium carbonate reacts with the acid in the stomach to form carbon dioxide, bubbles of carbon dioxide. Okay, and then these bubbles are trapped by the gel and they allow the gel to float like a raft on top of the stomach contents. Okay, so we saw sodium alginate reacting with calcium carbonate to form the gel, and then sodium bicarbonate reacts with the acid in the stomach to form bubbles of carbon dioxide, which actually help the gel to float like a raft on top of the stomach contents. So that is basically how Gaviscon works, to form this raft, which basically acts like a strong barrier to the forceful upward pressure of the reflux. Okay, when there's reflux, it acts as a barrier from these contents going up into the food pipe, the esophagus. So now with that, what we will be doing is doing the second part of the session. Now, here's an intro to the second part of the session. Let us quickly see a video of how Gaviscon helps in preventing heartburn. Now, here is a demonstration where I show you how to perform this experiment. Now, before you go ahead with the experiment, it is important of me to remind you to have your lab coats, goggles, and gloves ready to be able to do this experiment. So with that, let us see what all you need for performing this experiment and how to go ahead with it. So over here, you have been provided with a syringe containing Gaviscon. And then you have also been provided with a tube containing vinegar, which basically represents the acid contents in your stomach. So the tube is acting like your stomach with the acid. So now let's open this tube with vinegar. And then let's take the Gaviscon in the syringe. So first, remember to open the tip of the syringe, which actually prevents leakage from the syringe. And then slowly, you will need to add the Gaviscon into the vinegar in the tube. Very slowly. So you can see the Gaviscon worms, or how the Gaviscon is actually forming worm-like structures in the bottom. So the Gaviscon initially sinks to the bottom of the flask, where a gel forms on contact with the acid. So there is acetic acid or vinegar. So then, once this has settled, over a period of a minute, you will see that a few bubbles of carbon dioxide gas form on the surface of Gaviscon, and these carry layers of this gel to the surface of the acid, where they form a plug in the neck of the flask or the tube, which is what we are using here. So this basically blocks the neck of the tube, which may rise out of its mouth. So that is basically how the Gaviscon prevents from acid reflux of stomach contents into the esophagus. And that is how, you have so many different applications of biochemistry where you get to learn about the optimum conditions that need to be maintained within the body, and how a healthy lifestyle is absolutely important to prevent any unwanted disorders. So I hope that was very educative for you, and with that I will say bye bye.